Well, as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful afternoon, Tuesday, November 28th, 2023, here with the Hello Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and of course, a huge followers group such as you out there to make it your business to enhance and fortify the concept of public access. Of course, trying to find the source of this guy here. Okay, very good. Of course, it's a no-brainer when it comes to defining uh, the route that public access brings you to find yourself in, and when you take kind of under consideration the all the ingredients that make the society, the community, the neighborhood, the way we experience it here, especially here at the east end of Long Island period, New York State, the glory behind all these wonderful states that make it so condensed and unified. And the beauty in more ways than one is that it really you don't really notice that you're actually taking part in something miraculous, something kind of too good to be true kind of scenario. Uh, um, but then you find it, and I think under this kind of environment, the production of artists is something that is becoming second nature, and only God knows how vital the presence of artists is in the equation of in any kind of equation. Really, if you think about it, the uh, uh, the scenario where the villain will put his life on the line in order to gain access to the magic of art. And of course, when you hold a piece of art in your hand and and you realize that this piece of art in your hand can buy you a lifetime of peace and quiet, in addition to the fact that you can just sit and enjoy in ways that only your soul can relate to. Um, as an artist, I felt that uh, maybe a couple of times in 25 years, where I felt like I'm, the process itself is thankful for the fact that I'm deciding to engage, and for the fact that I take it as far as I do, and for the fact of introducing a scenario that is fearless and that is willing to take risks, and that it brings things together, especially when they kind of beginning to. I hate using the word decaying, but decay comes to mind, and it takes shape in so many ways, shapes and forms. And as an artist, it works to benefit us because we can kind of pause here and there and grab from what that which is available. So most people are trying to get rid of certain things that we will consider as small treasures, and we know enough than to ignore it. Of course, we know enough than to ignore it. Of course, we don't ignore it. We know enough not to ignore it. We definitely know enough not to ignore it. And the other day, I was saying to myself, I wish I could show you all these wonderful, magical things that I do in the studio all the time. Then I catch myself, and then I'm afraid to find myself in a situation that I try to avoid so much. Whether I have a guest to interview, whether I'm kind of directly and indirectly interviewing myself or something, that I don't come across as too cliche or even a little bit cliche. I don't like that which is cliche. I don't like that which is gonna has a potential to embarrass you or you. Um, just being too cliche here, trying to open this delicious chocolate. So, but in the same token, sometimes it's necessary to go through, especially the things that you don't like or things that don't agree with you, because this is just another step to reach your zone of yes, the zone of comfort, zone of comfort, where you can really come to terms with that which you love, with that which you choose to work with, and the results are pretty much for the most part guaranteed. Yeah, you can use the word guaranteed because it is guaranteed because you know well enough, or you know enough to estimate that indeed that's the case. You know where you stand. You know what are the odds, and you know also how to interpret, um, after you learn what the odds are, according to what the circumstances are, how to proceed. And I'm going to proceed by taking a bite of this little delicious thing and follow it with a sip of coffee. Mm, I'm telling you, this is just full of joy. I wonder in the battlefields, we should fill up all the soldiers' pockets with candy. A vicious enemy is charging at you. When you hand him this wonderful white chocolate with flakes of mm, just divinity. Wait for the enemy with wonderful, wonderful fresh coffee with cream. I mean, put a stop to the potential destructions that are taking place. And we almost can't imagine a reality without it, even though deep inside us we realize that this is what we deserve. We deserve to live without this weird animal trying to charge at you as if, as if I think most of us stopped asking the questions, how come? Does it have to be this way? Can we pray? Does prayer help? Do we put resistance? Do we keep to ourselves? Do we? But for the most part, we arrive to a conclusion. We're continuing creation, continuing in the development of creativity and actualizing the medium that you choose to kind of actualize, and then by kind of introducing it to the moment that will this begin to decipher it, then of course you guaranteed a birth for a new life, and then then there's a long period of mystery. Nobody knows how it's going to turn out, but at least you know enough to be able to estimate the situation, and maybe one thing about yourself. You can guess well, so you have a good feeling about it. So this, and I know actually a few people that when they create, they really weigh the days or the instances that they prevailed as opposed to those that whether they failed, or if you can ever use the word failing. Uh, and at the end of the day, they say that actually their success way out did the opposite. A lot of and then failure, which I don't like to use the word, actually serves as a positive, good factor that does a lot. It does a lot because it keeps you on the alert just for the right amount, and then the same token, it turns out to be a friend, a potential friend, and a supporter. And then, of course, on top of all that is it's implementing your uh, uh, specific identity desire, if I can call it this way. And by saying that, I mean uh, the early stages of things becoming, and then that that which becomes, including ourselves, the hosts wonder the same. And then when we start figuring things out, then that's the time where we go our separate ways. That's why you walk around, you see, no matter what, good or bad, there's individualism is the message of the hour, is the call of the minute, is the declaration of the second, you know, and that's a good thing. And there's certain things that you actually find yourself accepting as a given, and and rejoicing in the fact that they exist and they're at your disposal, available, and that you are found worthy of being a part of this game, supposedly, and the odds are in your favor. People think the world of you. I can tell you many instances where I saw someone perform, or someone paint a painting, or write a poem, or do something creative that 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 left an impression on me for a long time to come. And and at the same token, I don't recall that individual creating anything else in 10 years. So that doesn't take away from the impact of that first moment. Well, not first moment, early stages, where you you did that in order to say, well, you know what? If that means that means, you know, then this, then in roll and pull and anchor, you know. So it makes sense. It's actually proves itself to be something that the investment that we put into it is much deserved. And if you add to it the fact that the contents that share your personality, even though your personality takes 2-3% of the that whole almighty, mm, not to be ignored happening, you know, but still, it turned out to be that these 2% are so vital. Actually, the process cannot proceed without your presence, your the acknowledgments of what it means to have your presence there. How about that? Uh, in poetry, it allows you, for example, what am I doing now? This is what, storytelling poetry, maybe a modernistic uh, um, um, uh, prose, modernistic prose, storytelling poetry. What is it that I'm doing that actually turns out that I can do what I'm doing? Because exactly what contributes to that? What contributes to the fact, other than saying someone is capable of talking? This guy's capable of talking, and then you take it up a notch, uh, and you say, this one can take anything in the world and turn it into something, and that something will be occupying a whole hour talking about whatever, you know. It really doesn't matter, because what matters is what you find out as you showing the willingness to be a part of it. What it means to be a part of it means that that you have something invested in, and therefore any success on its behalf will secure your future. Does that sound good or what? even though sometimes I can tell you, people talk to me and I say, well, yeah, it sounds great, but I'm not so sure I I understand what's going on. You don't even address that person and say, I'm not so sure I understand you. I'm not so sure I find myself understanding what's happening here. I understand everything until it gets to the part where it's departing from my immediate vicinity, and I become a pure observer, not a part-time observer. Only then. But up to that moment, you are somewhat of a halfway landlord kind of thing. But so, what is it exactly that I do? What is it exactly that I do? I do something that I can do because I can do, and because I know that I can do, and because I know that I know how to do it, because I know that I know how to do it, then I can do it, and therefore I will give it a try. And before you know it, I'm already 60% into the process because there was a courtesy gesture of that reality that you wanted to become a part of, because you know you need to become a part of it in order to engage further and in order to really have a say and make a difference and whatnot. So you start, and maybe you reside on the first square for like 3 to 7 seconds, and then boom, you're like past the halfway, and you don't feel strange about it. Because in the past, if that would have happened to me, I would feel like I'm not entitled. It's like I got it as a gift, good for me, but it doesn't feel good. I don't feel the scars, the thickness of the skin, the roughness, all things that necessary really. If I didn't put the time to work out, obviously, so almost like a perfect composition of muscles that that don't have bravery accompanying it. So it's a deal breaker, and it's more like a disappointment in that which you take for granted, that at least in the early stages of engagement interaction there will be signs of intelligence and level of sophistication, smarts, wisdom, also social skills, bonding, getting to know, blending, coming together, learning, growing, because you're the one who does that. You want to hear, you want to listen, you want to take. It's okay, and but when you take and hear and all this, you also give what you give. You give, you give your attention. So okay, you take it because it works for you. You need it. It's important. You feel privileged. You feel lucky, but not before this kind of outwards engagement that take, give, take, give, take. There's almost like that. It's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pa 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 pa. So counting is almost that balance of second chakra, and suddenly you realize you don't even go to the third or the first because there are so many stages within that second chakra. And then you realize how important it is. Then you realize that it's so simple to understand. And then you realize that you really understand. Then you realize that you really understand it. And therefore, you kind of must know how to use it because it's a given, because that's what it claims. That if you get to know exactly what it is, what its nature is, then you're actually getting credits as a utilizer, as an operator. So that's fantastic things. Believe me, I can go into each fractions of it for an hour, and it will be probably 59 minutes that people will understand exactly nothing, or let's not exaggerate, maybe just not much. But that doesn't change the fact that there is a capability and opportunity available, and there's the availability of that which is a fact on the surface, and you have to reinvent or maybe just invent the approach to make it uh, doable with, without all this thickness of procedures and steps on the way, and uh, in short, energy draining factors, all these EDFs flying all over the place. And you're going through that knowing that you know what the problem is. And maybe the more you get to know what the problem is, the more you actually unknowingly and indirectly figuring out the remedy for it, the answer for it, the the medicine for it, the cure for it. And so in the suddenly realizing that you're in that zone where you're figuring things out, trying to figure things out, and then you realize that you're actually forming that which you wonder in category of numbers, whatever, numbers or letters, whatever. And then you realize, oh my God, there's so many subject matters that are giving birth to themselves in order to create doubles and triplets of the same idea. And then you realize the reason why something would want something identical to who it is and what it is, who he is, who they are, who we are, um, and out of that which states and claims and describes and relates to who we are. I mean, it's it's a the thing out of the thing itself. It's almost like if I imagine, I don't know, let's say you take the era of fusion music in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 20s. You get Weather Report, you get Ichikoria, you get even Miles Davis in his transformation in the 70s and 80s, and also Joe Zawinul, man, all this heritage, long heritage of drummers, all the way from Marvin Smithy Smith to uh, Tony Williams and Steve Gadd and Dave Wackel and Terry Bozzio. Just incredible people. The list is so long. And then they're doing their thing zealously, devotedly for 2, 3 decades, 30 years, breakthroughs. The world is in awe. The world is benefiting. The world is enjoying. And then you realize, of course, at some point, even the changing face, the constant changing of face needs to change its face. So that infrastructure itself needs to be reconfigured, recalculated, reconfigured. Yes. Um, so, so, and then all the genius that they had to break through the way they did initially doesn't seem to be working for them 3 decades later because they feel like they indulged too much on that which they invented, which for a decade or two it was working, was okay, and then when you knew you had to seek something different, you have to pause, big pause, stop, maybe even in order to expedite the process of change, and all, which you didn't. Well, because maybe you didn't know good enough or well enough. You didn't know enough to understand that you must do it now. Then, I mean, so what is the solution? Easy, very easy for people like me to come up with solutions, because I come up I come up with solutions completely out of the thing itself. Let's just say I'm going to talk about how they can reinvent themselves, but not reinvent themselves those that already broke through in a magical way when it comes to music, all the way of fusing, jazz and rock together, and all that followed, all that sound, that rhythm, that count, and you have very, very very, very upgraded reality that changed on moments basis. So what is it that I can offer to it? First of all, it doesn't matter. I wasn't sure that I have anything to offer, but I know that if I was to enter this territory with the attitude that I believe that is necessary for that, that attitude would have become the contents of the subject matter. It would have become the subject matter itself. That means the drummer would have to wake up in the morning and say to himself, 3 decades, the whole world is aware of my work. And yes, and yeah. But today I'm going to drop on my knees and approach my drum set as if I'm just looking for an expensive pearl earring that my wife dropped that is really tiny, and I'm going to approach it as if I'm looking for that something that I lost. I want to approach the drums as if I was to examine it from the aspect of rawness, aspect of a skeleton, uh, uh, that that makes it possible for the drums to be situated and located and positioned where they are, and to hold their own and to give the answers just by being passive, really, almost. But really examine out of curiosity that existed 30 years before that, and was at its height 30 years ago. And then you want to reacquaint yourself with that which you took for granted for 30 years, only because you could do that, and rightfully so, if and it worked for you. And then you realize, oh boy, it just got a hold on something, and that hold, it was a decade too long, uh, and then there was no separation. Separation wasn't an option, because it the fusion is incredibly uh, uh, vivid, uh, manifested, and but it never happened. So what happened, instead of us, the world, benefiting from that which these masters had within them, they didn't say their last word. It's just that the grand finale did not come to light because they missed the train. That means they're still great, but it's almost like as if you say, I mean, it's kind of, this bottle of water sat open for too long and it's not drink worthy. I mean, that's that simple. But on the other hand, what happened, well, it would have happened anyway, but happened and so quickly reclaimed that fame and that level of sophistication and effectiveness, uh, uh, you know, to to be alongside and almost a reflection of this older generation that introduced the world with incredible things. They they were the church, spiritual, emotional, uh, tradition, mentality of musical disciplines, and of course talent to no end, and willingness, no shame at all, no complete complete understanding of what blending really means. And that form gave room and gave life for this new breed of drummers that were almighty to come to life, to give birth to them. And suddenly, the very first prototype, something like uh, Kenny Moore or C.J. Thompson, drummers that are just like a phenomena. That's just like you hear their melodies and being meticulous and thoughtful and concerned and gentle and mindful and also a teacher just by the way that they introduced their passion vis-a-vis a par excellence technique that was non-wavering even if they didn't advance and progress the the middle section of that second chakra that came and went and ended up where it ended up in the same thickness, same speed, same kind of occupation of space. Nothing in the world can beat that. So what happens is, and I saw that actually. I can tell you a short story about C.J. Thompson where he was recording. C.J. Thompson had like, I don't know, 3, 5, 6, 7 million followers and somewhere, whatever. YouTube, whatever, somewhere. He had, everyone and his uncle, millions of people for a drummer. And he was in his early 20s, not even, I think it was 20. And all he did is like his friend and him, they had a drum set. He was a recording engineer, and the friend would record him doing whatever it is in order to send it forth, in order to feed the hunger of these 7 million followers. Now, he had 7 million followers for a good reason, for the right reason, because he was that which represented uniqueness of that which is extremely unique in a profoundly unique way, and I can continue forever, and every bit of it will be true and right. So they filmed one session. They filmed this session where the sound engineer and CJ Thompson would record things, and then after they will talk about it and approve it, it will be sent out to social media, wherever it is. So, so I sat and watched it, and he played 7 to 9 minutes of complicated solo scenario. Complicated, like really. When I heard it the first time, I was amazed that technically this individual can sit on the drum set and express so much variety, so much of so much in this and maintain that level of intensity, volume, strength, sound. And then after 7 9 minutes, they stop. Okay, he finishes. The audio engineer, his friend, comes out, and so CJ Thompson asked him, "So how was it?" And he said, "It was good. Of course, it was good. But listen, you got 7 million followers. You owe them a little more than that." So CJ Thompson said, "Okay." Then they start all over again. Then he realized that actually what he did before was a written composition. It wasn't random. Well, maybe 1% out of 100 was. And I'm dumbfounded sitting in front of the TV and watching this guy doing that same immaculate greatness all over again, precisely identically. He's done. The sound engineer's friend comes to the room, and CJ Thompson says, "So what's up?" He says, "That was really great, but listen, you have 7 million followers. You gotta give them a little more than that." And they went like this in and out 5 6 times. Now I'm an artist. I can identify the difference between craziness and real moment of triumph and power. And this was the incredible variety of a solid scenario where this greatness is literally on demand, and self-aware and self confidence and self-awareness and knowing where you are at every and any given time and always maintaining that dignity of top notchness and that is compatible with any direction that it would choose to be filtered through, all the way from modernistic, impressionistic, abstraction, realism, and add another dozen scenarios, subtitles, whatever you want, new names to the equation. Any name would be viable. Um, that which you do through anger, that which you do through pure knowledge, that which you do through patience, that which you do through conscience relationship to what every second is demanding or presenting or interacting or suggesting or donating or whatever it is. A great lesson. Now I go to my studio, but maybe I can tell you that I was already in the studio. And I said, there's no way in the world that I cannot consider this experience that I just experienced as a given, then I need to take it. I need to take it to its conclusion, my conclusion of the scenario of its conclusion. What am I going to do? I'm going to hold a pen and write a poem. I'm going to hold a brush and go. I'm going to do something with paint, something with ink, something with drumsticks, or what is it that I'm going to do? So I have to confess that I went to the studio and it was one of those moments that I was regretting that no one was there with me to give me the sense that the world out there still exists in the form and shape that we are accustomed to. Regular people, not regular people, lovely sounds, terrible noise, everything. Pure air, poisonous air, crowded, spacious. And I I dictated a development of a situation to a surface that did not quite approve my action and my act, but did not fail to state its inferiority in the face of my attempt or in the face of my desire to perform and to do whatever it is that I decided to do and eventually did. This chocolate will help caramelize my thoughts. Um, this coffee just gonna give it the right uppercut. Fantastic. Maybe another sip. Fantastic. Wow. So you meet your enemy in the center of the battlefield and you hand them some chocolate and they taste the chocolate and they're just floored on the espresso machines and give them this wonderful espresso, 2 shots espresso. And suddenly the world takes a turn and suddenly there's singing and there's drumming and there's beating, there's feeling, there's flying, there's sensing, there's also laughter and lots of tears at the same token. Of course, we have to deal with the unexpected. It's a no-brainer. Of course, we have to give it the utmost attention so it can somehow be worthy of the reputation that it got. Of course. So I thought to myself, well, this is a great opportunity to pick up a new language and start with just mumbling for a little while until I get into the decision of what it is exactly that I want to do. Maybe I want to learn Norwegian, whatever, or Chinese, or Turkish, or whatever, or Dutch, or. But in the meanwhile, until I get to the point where I decide, I'm just mumbling, just mumbling. Suddenly, mumbling it's gonna um, is licensed. It's it's legal. Just mumbling on the way to the clarity of a foreign language and your process of gaining respect and sense of importance in taking part of it. And then, of course, down the road, with the epitome of source of envy. Like with Elie Wiesel, think about it. All the books that he wrote, he made a coherent decision to write all the books in French. I think he spoke 5 languages, never had anything to do with French, and he decided to to get the world's attention first and foremost, not because he's writing, yes, of course, because he's writing about the Holocaust and the atrocities and the hellish reality of the Holocaust and trying to exterminate people, Jews and homosexuals and uh, and uh, and criminals and the mentally insane and the just just a whole bunch of people. I mean, by the millions. Um, so Elie Wiesel decided to tell you the stories of horrible crimes and atrocities against human beings in an alien language to him, which he studied and everything. Of course, he had like 3 PhDs and 5 languages and introduced dozens of books, and each book was so challenging, if only the way the author chose to write them, the technical skills of writing. And it's the first author that I admired and enjoyed without saying he's a great writer. It wasn't that. It was like he can write and he can show that he can write. That's how I wanted always to describe him. That doesn't make him a good writer or the opposite. He can write and he shows that he can write by writing what he writes, obviously. So, in the same token, we want to find our creative significance in this world by not allowing people to be complacent and to be adamant and neutral. Hmm. And really, without making such a big deal, which is something that I expressed to you on many occasions in the past, dwelling, taking yourself seriously, making a big deal about whatever. Even if I can't even think of anything that you can make a big deal about and it will be justified. It will be like, okay, I can understand and I can accept. So first and foremost, don't make a big deal about anything really. in in a world that has zero tolerance, in a world where people hurt people and don't make much of it, or in a world that countries undermine other countries and don't make much of it, in a world where violence and aggression can erupt out of nowhere suddenly, and then suddenly we're back to normal, which happens quite a lot. You know, you hear about atrocities and all this and whatnot, and you turn and you say, "What's for dinner?" And yes, indeed, what's for dinner? You need to eat. But uh, so I chose a destination that is really not important to anyone. I like in my scenario, not that I'm going to share it with you right now. I'm just saying my destination, where I want to go from where I am, how I want to get there, what's the style of travel that I'm going to choose, what's the attitude that I'm entering with, and what's the desirable uh, transformation of that attitude, of that approach, uh, as I'm kind of approaching uh, fruition, conclusion, whatever it is. So, so what it, what is it? What is it that I expect from myself? What is it that I'm hoping for? What is the rationale, and should I use? Should I share this rationale? Should I respond to a demand from the people to know about what's taking place with me, what's happening to me, in order to understand my creation? Uh, how much, when the time comes, how much would I owe these individuals? How much would I owe the destiny that I'm traveling towards when I would reach it? And maybe it wouldn't be out of the question to reach the end of your life and without really reaching your destination. But at least you know you're on par. This is, they say, azimuth, uh, a phrase from the army. Which azimuth? Like, um, so you know you know of your loyalty to the process. You know of your loyalty to the process that you have created and put in place yourself. Fantastic. You know of your level of determination, your playfulness, your thoughtfulness, your care, your acknowledgement, and mind you, that constant happening in your immediate surrounding around it, which is the replica of the world, and that which is surrounding the world, which is us, of course, and so much more. But we are the world that surrounds around itself, as we both surround about, around the world. Period. That takes all of that, and we don't want to talk about the air that lifts it, that holds it, that stabilizes it, that and so much more. So I want to be understanding the nature of my journey, where I am, and when I am, where I am, when I am, is in sync with my understanding of where am I heading? What's the direction? What's the nature of that direction? What's the significance and relevance of the subject matter that I'm fusing with, and that I'm blending with, and that I'm yearning for? All this. So and then life is over. Then life is over. life is over. Life is over. And then you can be cliche, you can say, like, oh, so quickly, boom, you hear this, you're gone. No, you're not hearing this and gone. You're here, you're here, and then you stay. And that gone is a different equation to that gone, because obviously you have that and it's stored there, and then you also have a say. Maybe if it goes in, doesn't come out, it stays there. And so much more, by the way. Let me just see. 10. Wow. 10. And that's 5. That's it. That's perfect. Yes. So I keep on contemplating and going through all the motions and emotions and scenarios and thoughts and philosophy and all this, until, and maybe only because at some point you realize, okay, you got to put a few things on hold. You got to decide to pause on more than one platform. It's just as simple as that, because this is just basic raw basic understanding of the rules that make it uh, uh, that make it you know eh, just difficult, just the right amount of difficulty, just the right amount of struggle, just the right amount of resistance, just the right amount of harshness, just the right amount of aggression, just the right amount. I'm not going to go to positive and positive, and I'm going to go to lightweight negative, and then of course positive is there, just the right amount of goodness, just the right amount of appealing, just the right amount of smiling, just the right amount of love, just the right amount of consideration, just the right amount of friendship. Yeah, but I want to say just the right amount of teasing, just the right amount of challenging, and just the right amount of pretty much, how can I say it? Eliminating the unknowingness of things, from preventing that from creating even the slightest shift that will just make us end up so far away from any kind of familiar destination that you had in mind, period, forever and ever. No way, no possibility to fix, to correct, to realign. Got to start from scratch. And believe me, you might be lucky enough to be able to start from scratch once in your life, but second time, you're doomed. Maybe not. You can say you'll be pleasantly doomed. And at least you can say pleasantly. And you can say pleasantly only because you know you can say pleasantly and you say pleasantly. And that changes the entire equation of that which we just 5 minutes ago thought, took as something serious, severe, woo, wow, big deal. And suddenly it's not. It's something to be able to be aware of. But in the same token, it's not like a do or die. It's not like you cannot do without. And on top of all that, just real realization that you matter. You matter. I mean, I matter. I want to tell you, instead of saying too much I. You matter to yourself. And therefore just the benefits from it are immeasurable. Immeasurable. Do your good deed with the level, even if it's tiniest, with the level of that the level of conviction will be 100 times greater than the act itself. And that's all you need. That's all the world needs. But also the straightforwardness of holding a brush in your hand because you're an artist, nothing can replace that. The straightforwardness of just picking up a pen and a pad and write a poem and write, period, whether it's clicking a computer or having, that's there's nothing goes around that. That's it. And the point of reference of picking up a musical instrument and actually playing the recording, let someone else do it. That's, you're playing, and you're aware of that you're playing, and you know it's something good, and you're happy for that, and you feel happy because of it, and anyone that's around you feel happy, and it's just a vicious, delicious cycle. We're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday, and as much as we're here this late afternoon on Tuesday, November 28th, year 2023, here with the Hello Hello Show at the LTV Public Access at the Eastern of Long Island. Keep up the good spirits. We're getting ready for an explosive show with Josh Dayton, Steve Lotion, and myself. God bless. Keep up the good spirits.